The DC metro area is still affordable if you locked your house in before 2020. But if you didn't, you're probably quietly being priced out of the market to a great degree, and you might not even realize it. College graduates and young professionals are flocking to Washington, D.C. for career opportunities, but many of them ask themselves, can I afford to actually live here? I work with a lot of federal employees and government workers looking to purchase their first home in the DMV. They're usually making $160,000 a year, but they're always not sure what they can actually afford. Job growth in the DMV remains strong, the federal government continues hiring, and the private sector opportunities are continuing to boom. But there's one specific problem that's affecting everyone from entry-level employees to seasoned professionals. We're talking about your ability to build wealth through homeownership. Today, I'm going to break down a question that thousands of people moving to DC are asking. Where did the affordable housing go? I talk to people every single week who say the exact same thing. I make six figures, I have great credit, so why does buying a home in DC feel absolutely impossible? But here's the scary part. The DC metro area isn't expensive as like a San Francisco or New York in terms of pure home prices. But the math for a lot of people simply just isn't mathing anymore. And that feeling is really starting to set in. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you precisely where the DC metro real estate market went from accessible to exclusive. So many people missed the opportunity before the pandemic in 2020 and the interest rate spike of 2022 and 2023. And if you're thinking about moving to Washington, DC, or relocating anywhere in the DMV, this knowledge can save you tens of thousands of dollars in helping you avoid the pitfalls that many people make when they're deciding to make a purchase here in the city. Now look, the common belief is that DC is expensive but worth it because of the career opportunities and the lifestyle that you can have. And technically that's true. In fact, the DMV consistently ranks in the top 10 metros for median household income. We have incredible earning potential here, but the housing market is truly breaking people financially. And look, affordability just isn't about whether you can technically afford a mortgage. It's about whether normal people can live normal lives and save for retirement, maybe have kids, maybe still continuing to take vacation. People need to live and not feel like they're one emergency away from a financial disaster. And when you measure the DC metro area that way, well, something really changes. And this isn't about opinion. We're going to look at real numbers, housing prices, rents, property taxes, commute costs, childcare, expenses, all lifestyle costs grouped together, not just cherry-picked one at a time. Because honestly, that's where a lot of affordability conversations start to fall apart, because we're not looking at the full picture and taking everything into consideration. And if you get this wrong, you aren't just going to overpay for your house. You're going to lock yourself into a lifestyle that quietly drains you for decades. But if you get it right, the DC metro area can be an incredible place to build a career, raise a family, and call it home. So here is exactly how this video is going to play out. I'm going to talk about four major things here. First, I'm going to show you why DC feels affordable on paper, but really isn't when you factor in everything. Then we're going to break down the numbers that most people ignore until they actually started to move here and live here. Third, I'm going to share who the DC metro area actually still works really well for and who should probably think twice about moving to this market. And finally, I'll show you the programs and the strategies that are actually helping people get into homes right now in 2026, even in this ever-changing market. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Gerald Jordan. I'm an associate broker with the Home Team Realty Group and team lead of the Jordan Group. I lead a team of 4 agents here in the DC metropolitan area. And in 2025 alone, my team helped 45 families complete real estate transactions totaling to $18.5 million in sales volume. I specialize in the DC metro relocations, and I work with everyone from first-time home buyers to seasoned investors. I'm here to be your real estate resource of choice, whether you're moving from across the country or just looking to relocate here within the DMV. And with that said, let's start off with the part that nobody really talks about. First, we're going to talk about the comparison trap. And look, DC looks reasonable, but only when compared to markets like New York or San Francisco. You can throw Los Angeles in there too. That's really the only market where DC really compares to. And that comparison is fundamentally flawed because it ignores a really important question. Compared to what you're earning and what your lifestyle actually costs, can you truly build wealth here? Let me give you the numbers that nobody wants to talk about. The median home price in the DC metropolitan area as of late 2025 is hovering around $625,000. Now, that might sound reasonable if you're coming from the Bay Area where homes are over $1 million, but here's what that actually means for the average person. To comfortably afford a $625,000 house with a 20% down payment, you'd need a household income of roughly $180,000 to $200,000 per year. That's assuming you're following the traditional 28-36 rule, where your housing costs don't exceed 20% of your gross monthly income. Now, the median household income in the DC metro area is about $120,000. That's significantly higher than the national average, which is fantastic. But do you notice a gap? The median income earner cannot comfortably afford the median home. Let that sink in for a second. The math just doesn't work for most people anymore. And the single biggest driver behind this fact that DC has become unaffordable for many people is, of course, because of housing. Housing is incredibly competitive here in the DC metro area. We have a fundamental supply and demand problem. During 2020, 2021, and even 2022, we saw a 35 to 40% increase in median home prices. What does that mean for the average Joe? That means your average federal employee, your average teacher, your average nonprofit worker can no longer afford to buy the same house or the same neighborhood that they used to grow up in. Also, in addition to home prices, rents far outpace wage growth, which is a recipe for disaster in my opinion. A one-bedroom apartment in DC proper now averages $2,200 to $2,500 per month. A two-bedroom in Arlington or Alexandria, you're looking at $2,800 to $3,500. And in some more desirable areas like Georgetown or Capitol Hill or Clarendon, we're talking about $3,500 to $4,500 for a decent two-bedroom. And beyond that, the day-to-day cost of living just rose up so rapidly during that period of time, not only in DC, but the entire country. But the DC metro area got hit particularly hard because we already had high costs to begin with. And the truth is, when you benchmark everything against like San Francisco or Manhattan, pretty much anywhere feels affordable in comparison. But that doesn't mean it's sustainable for your financial future. Now, there's one other talking point I want to cover here, which are wages. Wages in the DC metro area have historically been strong because of the concentration of federal jobs, contracting opportunities, and the robust private sector. In the recent 5 to 8 year period, wages and salaries in the DMV have continued to climb, especially for those in tech, consulting, and government contracting. For those of you watching, if you're in a federal position and you haven't moved up to a GS level or advanced agencies in the last 5 years, then you're probably not realizing the full income potential. But for those of you who are strategically managing their careers, switching companies, or moving into private sector roles, the earning potential in DC is incredible. So why am I sharing this? What it means is if you have strong income, ideally above that $150,000 household threshold, you can absolutely afford to live here and thrive in the city. And collectively, all of the opportunities that are associated with living in the DC metro area, the career growth, the networking, the cultural experiences, these are incredible compared to most other markets in the country. But that still doesn't mean that moving from a market where homes are $300,000 and being shocked when you realize you need to spend $550 to get something comparable is an easy pill to swallow. And look, housing is only the first domino. And next up, we're going to talk about the lifestyle inflation and the hidden costs that you oftentimes just can't avoid. Now look, living in the nation's capital and the surrounding metro area comes with the cost that people just simply don't understand until they already live here. And that growth that we've experienced over the last 2 decades, well, it changes how you live, even if you don't want it to. So what does this mean? First, it means longer commutes and higher transportation costs. If you want to live close to DC proper where your job might be, you're going to pay a premium for housing. But if you move further out to places like Woodbridge or Fredericksburg, even Frederick, Maryland, sure, you'll likely be able to get more house for your money. But now you're commuting an hour, maybe 2 hours each way. That's wear and tear on your vehicle. That's gas costs or expensive monthly metro or train passes. Let me give you real numbers. A monthly parking pass in DC can run you about $250 to $400 depending on your neighborhood. A monthly metro pass for unlimited travel is about $290. But if you're traveling from like Fredericksburg to DC 5 days a week, you're roughly looking at about $400 to $500 per month in gas alone, not counting vehicle maintenance and depreciation. Second, let's talk about property taxes, because the property taxes here in the DMV are no joke. In DC proper, you're looking at property taxes at 0.85%, which sounds reasonable until you apply it to a $650,000 home. That's $5,525 per year. In Maryland counties like Montgomery or Prince George's County, you're looking at rates at about 1.1 to 1.15. In Northern Virginia, Fairfax County sits around 1.13, Arlington around right under 1%, but Alexandria is a lot lower at about 0.81%. These numbers add up quickly. A $600,000 home in Fairfax County That means you're paying roughly about $6,780 per year in property taxes. That's $565 per month on top of your mortgage payment that many people don't fully account for when they're budgeting. Third, let's talk about childcare. If you have kids or are planning on having kids, childcare in the DC metro area is amongst the most expensive in the country. We're talking about $1,800 to $2,500 per month per child for a full-time daycare. For infant care, which is the most expensive, some centers charge about $2,800 to $3,200 per month. If you have 2 young kids in daycare, that can easily run you about $4,000 to $5,000 per month. That's a second mortgage for many families. Fourth, let's talk about car insurance in the DC metro area because it is higher than the nation's average due to population density, traffic congestion, and higher rates of accidents and death. You're looking at an average of about $1,800 to $2,200 per year for full coverage on a single vehicle. Now, if you have 2 cars, that's easily $3,500 to $4,000 annually. Fifth, homeowners insurance and HOA fees. Many properties in the DMV, especially newer townhomes and condos, come with an HOA fee that ranges anywhere from $150 to $600 per month, depending on the amenities and the community. That's just another cost that eats into your budget that you may not have had in hand in your previous market. And this is precisely where people think to themselves, I don't even know where my money goes anymore. I mean, have you ever visited a grocery store in the DMV lately? You walk out with 2 bags. By the way, they're 10 cents a bag. If you walk out with 2 bags in your hand, that's about $120. How do I know? Because I certainly have done it. Groceries in DC proper and the immediate suburbs are noticeably more expensive than any other market in the country. 6, and this is a big one that a lot of people don't even think about, and that's the social and professional pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle. The DC metro area attracts highly educated, high-achieving professionals. There's an unspoken expectation in many social and professional circles to dress a certain way, to dine at nice restaurants. And by the way, DMV has some of the best restaurants in the country, but also have a reliable vehicle, live in a respectable neighborhood. These expectations quietly drive up your cost of living, even if you're trying to be frugal. So with all of this said, who is the DC metropolitan area still affordable for? Look, affordability is situational. It depends on your personal situation, your career trajectory, and your financial priorities. So who is it still affordable for? First of all, it's still affordable for most people if they purchased a house prior to 2020 or locked in the low interest rates of 2020 to 2021. That's not to say that they aren't feeling the pain of inflation and all of the increased costs with respect to groceries, childcare, and everything in between. But you're in a really strong position if you bought your home before the prices exploded, and if you have a mortgage between 2.5 to 3.5% in interest. You probably have significant equity built up by now, and your monthly costs are likely much lower than what you'd pay if you bought a house today or if you were renting. Next up, who the DC metro area still works really well for is if you earn above the median household income. If you're bringing in over $150,000, $175,000, $200,000, or even more as a household, then you're going to thrive here in the DMV. And to answer the question that so many people are asking, I get this question all the time: who's buying all of these expensive homes? When we look at real estate prices in Arlington, Bethesda, Alexandria, or even parts of DC, we see homes selling for $800,000, $1 million, $1.2 million. That's very common. And so many people are thinking to themselves, who can even afford these homes? I think to that myself sometimes. Well, it's these people specifically. It's dual income households where both partners are high income earning professionals. Think 2 federal employees at the GS-14 or GS-15 level. Think consultants at firms like Deloitte or Accenture. Think government contractors, tech workers, lawyers, lobbyists. Think tank employees, executives at nonprofits or trade associations. These are the people earning between $150,000 to $250,000 individually, meaning their household income is about $300,000 to $500,000. For them, a $900,000 home in Arlington is very doable. And there are tens of thousands of these households here in the DMV. Hence, the real estate market continues to move forward and appreciate. Third, this market is for those who work remotely for companies based in higher cost of living markets. A lot of times people have a remote work situation where they're employed by a tech company in San Francisco or a financial firm in New York, and they're earning that market salary of $180,000, $200,000, $250,000 per year. For those people, the DC metropolitan area works incredibly well. You get the best of both worlds: high income with relatively lower costs compared to where your employer is based. Fourth, it works really well for people with scalable income. If you're in sales, if you own a business, if you're a real estate agent like myself, if you're an entrepreneur, the DC metro area offers incredible opportunities to scale your income. The concentration of wealth, the professional networks, the access to decision makers, all of this creates an environment where ambitious, entrepreneurial people can financially thrive. Fifth, if you're flexible on locations within the DMV, this can play to your advantage. If you don't mind living in Prince William County or Stafford or Charles County in Maryland, or out Loudoun County, Frederick, you can get significantly more house for your money. A home that costs $650,000 in Arlington might cost you $475,000 in Woodbridge. If you work remotely or have a flexible schedule where you're not commuting every day to work, you can really enjoy a high quality life while keeping your housing costs more manageable. 6, and this is specifically to DC. If you qualify for down payment assistance programs, the DMV still financially works for you. There are programs like the Federal Home Loan Bank, which we call FHLB. It's a grant that offers up to $20,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance for qualified buyers. There are DC specific programs like the DC Open Doors program and the Home Purchase Assistance program we call HPAP. Both of these help first time buyers. There are Maryland programs through CDA and the Maryland Mortgage Program. Virginia has down payment assistance through VHDA. If you know how to leverage these programs, which I help all my clients do all the time, you can get into a home with significantly less money out of pocket than you think. And so in essence, yes, the DC metropolitan area has become unaffordable for many people, but for people who choose to live here and want to move here, DC has become more selective. It's not a market where you can just show up with an average income and expect to buy a home in a nice neighborhood close to the city. You need real strategy here. You need to be intentional. You need to understand the market, understand the programs available, and make the smartest decision for you and your financial future. Now we've talked about who the DC metro area still works really well for, but who doesn't it work for? Let's be honest about this. First off, I think the people who are most impacted are the first-time home buyers without any significant savings or family support. If you're a young professional making about $65,000 to $75,000 per year, living in DC proper or even close to the suburbs, and trying to save for a down payment while paying $2,000 a month in rent plus student loans, it'll be incredibly difficult. The math is brutal. You're essentially in a position where renting is expensive, which makes it hard to save, which keeps you renting longer, which makes it even harder to save. It's a never-ending cycle that's really hard to break without a significant income increase or help from family. Now, I'm happy to report that I've helped many first-time home buyers under the age of 30 and even in their early 20s buy homes in the last year by leveraging down payment assistance programs, looking in areas like Capitol Heights or Temple Hills or Oxon Hill in Maryland, or even in Dale City in Virginia, places where you can find townhomes and condos in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. It's doable, but it requires strategic planning and often requires buyers to adjust their expectations about location and property type. Another group of people that the DC metro area doesn't work for all the time is single income households. And look, not everybody is blessed with the opportunity to have dual incomes. Maybe you're a single parent. Shout out to the single fathers, the single mothers. Maybe you have a spouse who's staying at home with the young children because childcare costs are so astronomical that it doesn't make financial sense for both people to work. Maybe you have a family member dealing with health issues that requires one person to be a caretaker. The reality is that most households in the DC metro area, especially those who own homes in desirable areas, have two incomes. It's just the economic reality of this market. A single income household making $85,000 or even $100,000 is going to struggle to buy and maintain a comfortable lifestyle in most parts of the DMV. It's not impossible, but it's a challenge. And you really have to be strategic about where you live and how you manage your finances. The third group of people that the DC metro area doesn't work really well for is renters without any upward mobility in their career. If you're in a job or a career field where your income is relatively flat, where you're not getting raises beyond cost of living adjustments, where there's not a clear path to earning significantly more in the next 3 to 5 years, then you're probably falling behind every single year in the DMV. Rents go up 3 to 5% annually. Home prices continue to appreciate. The cost of everything continues to rise. And if your income isn't rising at the same pace or faster, you're losing ground. And that's precisely why I think it's so crucial that the DC metro area continues to work on the affordable housing crisis. We need increased housing supply across all price points. We need more workforce housing for teachers, for firefighters, for service workers, for nonprofit employees, for all of the people who make the region function but aren't earning $150,000 a year. But for all of these people that the DC metro area doesn't work all that well for, this is the group of people where it just feels like they're treading water or even falling behind financially despite working hard and doing everything right. And that's frustrating. That's demoralizing. And I think it's something that we as a community and the industry really need to be honest about. Now, let's talk about solutions, because I don't want to just tell you about the problem. I want to give you actionable strategies and programs that are helping real people buy here in 2026. First, let's talk about down payment assistance programs. I mentioned this earlier, but I want to go deeper because this genuinely is life-changing for a lot of buyers. The Federal Home Loan Bank program, often called FHLB, offers up to $20,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance for qualified buyers in the DMV. This is not a loan, it's a grant. You don't have to pay it back as long as you live in the house as your primary residence for at least 5 years. To qualify, you generally need to be a first-time home buyer or have not owned a home in the last 3 years. You need to meet certain income limits which vary by county but are generally pretty reasonable, and you need to complete a home buyer education course. This is one of the best programs out, and I walk my clients through this process all the time. $20,000 in assistance can be the difference between being able to buy a home this year or having to wait another 2, 3, 4, or 5 years to save up. Second, let's consider alternative property types. A lot of buyers come to me fixated on single family homes, and I get it. We all want a yard, we all want space, we all want privacy. But in the DC metro area, condos and townhomes can be a fantastic entry point into homeownership. Me and my wife did it. I highly recommend it. You can often find well-located condos in places like Silver Spring, Alexandria, even parts in DC for $350,000 to $450,000. You'll have condo fees, but you're building equity instead of paying rent. And in 3 to 5 years, you've built up equity and hopefully your income has increased by then. You can sell that condo and move into a single family home. Me and my wife did it. Third, expand your geographic search. I know everybody wants to live in Arlington, Bethesda, Capitol Hill. Me and my wife wanted to live there. But the reality is that there are some fantastic opportunities and communities in PG County, Charles County, the Stafford County area, Loudoun County, where you can get a lot more house for significantly less. Places like Fort Washington, Accokeek, Waldorf, Fredericksburg, Ashburn, Sterling. These are communities with good schools, with improving amenities, and with homes that are $100,000 to $200,000 less expensive than their closer-in counterparts. Fourth, work with an agent who specializes in your specific situation. If you're a first-time home buyer, work with an agent like myself who knows every down payment assistance program available, who can connect you with lenders who specialize in these programs, who can help you navigate through neighborhoods that you may have not considered. And if you're looking to relocate from out of state, work with an agent who understands relocation, who can give you insider knowledge about commute times and school districts and the hidden costs involved in moving to the DMV. Fifth, let's get you pre-approved with a knowledgeable, local, expert lender before you start your house hunting process. Not just getting pre-qualified, but fully pre-approved with your credit pooled, your income verified, and your assets documented. What this does is 2 things. It gives you a realistic understanding of what you can actually afford, not just what some online calculator says, and it makes you a much stronger buyer in a competitive market. Sellers and listing agents take pre-approved buyers much more seriously than pre-qualified buyers. 6, let's be patient and strategic. I know the fear of missing out is real. I know it feels like if you don't buy right now, prices are going to skyrocket and you'll never be able to afford anything. But the reality is the market always has inventory. There's always going to be opportunities. What you need to do is get educated, get your finances in order, work with a professional who has your best interests at heart. And then when the right opportunity presents itself, you're ready to make a move quickly and confidently. So is the DC metropolitan area still affordable? Well, the answer is this. For some people, in some situations, in some locations, yes it is. But if you came in thinking that DC is some kind of affordable paradise, the reality is probably going to disappoint you. The DMV is an expensive market. That's just the truth. But if you come in with realistic expectations, if you understand the programs and strategies available, if you're willing to be flexible on locations or property type, or if you have a plan to grow your income, then yes, the DC metropolitan area can still work really well for you. And not only work for you, but be an incredible place to build a career, to build wealth, to build a life. The opportunities here are real. The networking is unmatched. The concentration of ambitious, educated, interesting people creates an environment where you can thrive professionally and personally if you set yourself up correctly from the start. And look, my job isn't to sugarcoat things. My job is to keep it real, give you the most real information so you can be informed and make the best decision for you and your family. Because the worst thing that can happen is you move here to the DMV unprepared. You make the financial decision that puts you in a bad position. And then you spend the next 5 to 10 years stressed out and regretting your choices. So if this content is helpful to you, make sure you subscribe to my channel. because I put out content like this bi-weekly to help you understand everything along the way as you're considering your move to the DC metro area. And as always, my team and I are here to help you make the best of your real estate choices. And now that you know who the DC metro area works well for and who it doesn't work well for, hopefully that gives you a little bit more clarity in moving forward. So let's start the conversation. Let's talk. You can find my contact information in the description below, whether you're making $75,000 a year or $275,000 a year. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a seasoned investor, I can help you navigate this market and find the right solution for your specific situation. And if you want to learn more about living in the DC metro area, about specific neighborhoods, down payment assistance programs, about what it's like to relocate here, check out my other videos in this channel. I break down everything that you need to know to move with confidence. Until next time, this is Gerald Jordan with the Home Team, and I hope to see you on the next one.